Spring doesn't arrive all at once. It comes through small signs, the lengthening of light, the first stirrings of growth, and that feeling that something is about to shift. In tonight's episode, we're going to be talking all about Ostara spring equinox, including some of the history and lore behind it, what this season means for us spiritually, as well as simple ways that you can celebrate the season and spring equinox and Ostara in your own life and your own practice. So merry meet, I'm Aislin, this is Ask Aislin. Tonight we're here with a witch's guide to Ostara spring equinox. So welcome to those who are joining us live. Say hi in the chat, let us know that you are here. As always, we'll have a Q&A at the end, so you can leave questions and comments, whether you're live or watching back later. And also, don't forget to leave a heart or a thumbs up somewhere in the episode. This will help us get it out to more people. So we're going to dive in, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. So we're first going to start by talking a little bit about what is Ostara. For those of you who are newer to the Sabbat, and also those who want a refresher, we're also going to talk about some of the history and lore, where the name Ostara comes from, the goddess that is traditionally celebrated at Ostara, as well as ways that you can practice as you move forward into the season of Ostara. So merry meet. Welcome to Tommy, Talisa, and Andrea. I see in the chat. Merry meet, everybody. And let's dive in. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the timing of the spring equinox, because the timing of the spring equinox shifts year by year, and it will affect when Ostara season begins. So in this year, 2026, the spring equinox will arrive at 7:46 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So that would be 10:46 a.m. if you're in the Eastern time zone, and then you can translate that into whatever time zone you are in. But that is on Friday, this Friday, 3:20. Now, the shift of this date changes year to year. It can occur as early as the 19th of March, and it can occur as late as the 23rd of March. And that will shift, and that opens up this kind of energy. But what you're going to notice, as it is with all of the sabbats, is the energy will begin, you'll start to begin to feel it before we actually hit that date. And then we'll be fully in it as soon as we are, past the spring equinox. So what is Ostara? So on the wheel of the year, Ostara is the sabbat that is associated with the spring equinox. So the spring equinox starts that seasonal energy. It is a point of balance. So when we look at the world around us, we have equal day and equal night, which is where the word equinox comes from. It's also a turning point and a shifting point in the energy of the world. So winter is transitioning to spring. Now, depending on where you live, you may notice this different than other people, right? So for example, here in Los Angeles, it's like the car said it was 100 degrees today, which is actually unseasonably warm for us here. But I know from speaking to a few of our members who are in the Midwest area, for example, in Minnesota, they received lots and lots of snow. So this sort of shifting into spring, you may see it depending on where you are. Like in Los Angeles, it feels like we're already in summer. And in some areas of the country, it feels like we're still stuck in winter, right? And that could be true of other places in the world as well. Now, also to note is that in the Southern Hemisphere, the celebration at this time is actually the fall equinox. And so this would be Mabon. But our episode is going to be focused on spring equinox. So the earth, in many places who celebrate the spring equinox at this time, it is becoming visibly more alive. And even if you can't quite see it yet, it is on the way wherever you are. This is a different energy than Imbolc. So at Imbolc, the Sabbat that comes right before this one, we think of this as the first spark. So maybe there is a little bit of light and a little bit of hope, but at Ostara, that energy really becomes more visible. There's the emergence of growth, right, around us. momentum. And we may even feel it in this slight way that our mood is lifted at this time. So the key themes of Ostara are balance, fertility, renewal, emergence, and that can mean emergence of many different things, possibility. So it's like the time of day that's equated to this time of the wheel is dawn, when all the possibilities of the day are available, right? So this is all when all the possibilities of the wheel are available to us right now. And planting what you want to grow throughout the season, whether that is physical planting, as we'll talk about a little later, or planting the mental seeds of what you want to grow throughout this season and throughout the growing half of the wheel. This is the moment when the potential to us can become more visible. And Ostara is often talked about as a spring fertility festival. But as we know with all of the sabbats, there are deeper layers to it. It's more than just a fertility festival. So we're going to begin by kind of transitioning into the lore and the history. Where does the word come from? Who is the goddess that we tend to equate to this time of the year? But just wanted to say hi to a few more joining us. Merry meet to Susan. Merry meet to Rebecca and to Jenny. So great to see all of you. If you're here live, let us know that you are here in the chat. And also let us know how you are celebrating Ostara. Is this going to be your first time celebrating? Have you celebrated for a while? What are you doing this year to celebrate? And if you don't know what to do, hopefully by the time we end this episode, you'll have some good ideas. So let's go into the lore now. Now, the spring equinox is spiritually significant in many cultures and is to modern pagans, witches, Wiccans. We celebrate this as Ostara. Now, where does the name Ostara come from? Well, the best that we can find is that it comes from the goddess, the name for the goddess, Eostre or Ostre. It's spelled Eostre. Now, there's historical evidence. The historical evidence around where the origin of the name comes from is limited, and it is open for debate. So if you've heard different origin stories than what I'm about to speak about, that is okay too. Like I said, this is very much open for debate. But historically, we believe that the name probably comes from old Anglo-Saxon, English, and Germanic people. The earliest reference to the word Ostara, actually I should say to the word Eostre, is by Bede, who was an English Benedictine monk, and in the 8th century he wrote about Eostre, specifically mentioning a month that was called, and this is in Old English, so I doubt I'm pronouncing this correctly, but it was Eostre Moap. Eostre Moap. And he connected it to this goddess, Eostre or Ostre. Now, linguistically, if we look at that word, Eostre, we do believe it comes from Old English. Now, the word Ostara, as it gets translated into, what we're using in modern paganism, appears to come from Old High German. And it, in that form of the word, was popularized by no less than Jacob Grimm, who, with his brother, wrote the Grimm's fairy tales. So around the 19th century, he is kind of our first seeing of this word spelled Ostara. Now, the word Ostara today is tied to the Sabbat, and this appears to be a belief of modern paganism and Wiccan usage and modern witchcraft. So when people say Ostara is an ancient holiday, in some ways they're correct, and in some ways they're not correct, because it's kind of an amalgamation of many different things coming together. What we do know is we do believe there is a goddess named Eostre, Ostre, and that the word Ostara then comes from her name. And if we look at who she is, it makes a lot of sense as to her connection to this holiday. So who is Ostara? Now, Ostara is considered a maiden goddess of spring. And by the way, too, we can still refer to her as Eostre or Ostre, Ostara. And I wanted to tell you the story of Ostara and the hare. If you've never heard this story, it's a beautiful story. And if you have heard it before, it's just nice to hear it again. So there are many tellings of this story, and the one that I most like is that at the spring equinox, which was considered Ostara's birthday, she had this great celebration, and she would invite all of the animals of the forest to come to her birthday party. And just like any birthday party, it's kind of expected that you bring a gift with you. And so the animals would spend all this time trying to figure out the perfect gift that they would bring to this beautiful goddess who was so kind to them. And, as the goddess of spring, also was so important to the forest and the animals because she brought life and rebirth, right? And so the story says that the hare, he spent all this time trying to figure out what to buy her, what to bring to her, and he didn't have a lot of money and he didn't have a lot of resources, but he did have this one beautiful egg. And he was saving it for his lunch because he didn't have much to eat and he was very hungry. But as he looked at this egg, he thought, what could I give her that would be the best thing I could give her? And he decided to give her the egg. And not only did he give her the egg, but he painted it very, very beautifully. And on the day of her birthday, all the animals gathered at her party, and one by one, they presented her with these wonderful, beautiful things. And the hare was feeling a little bit nervous because he didn't think his gift was all that special. And so when he presented it to the goddess and he held it up to her, and she was so overcome by his generosity at giving her his meal, essentially, and how beautiful the egg was. She was so touched by this that not only did she declare his gift the best gift of anyone at the party, but she also made a special place for him in her castle where she, every year, is basically to pay his rent. Every year he would travel to all the kids in the world and he would bring his beautiful painted eggs. So I love that story. I love it for adults. I love it if you have kids or grandkids, tell them the story. It's just such a beautiful story and such so many beautiful themes within it. But I also think, one of the things to ponder about this too is right there in that story about this ancient goddess. We have the origin of the Easter egg, right? So many of the symbols of the Christian Easter are the symbols of the pagan Ostara. And if you've been a pagan for a while, or even if you're newer to the pagan spirituality or religion, whatever you consider it, it probably doesn't come as much of a surprise to you yet that yes, many of the symbols from Christian religious holidays actually have an origin that is much older than that. So I kind of leave that for your consideration. And also something interesting to ponder as well for your consideration is, this idea of the egg, and how it gets equated with the Christian Jesus is a bit puzzling to me, at least, because the egg is the symbol of the female, the feminine, the divine feminine, right? Fertility and birth. It's not tied to the male deity in any way. So always questioning where these things come from, right? Suppressing ancient religions and ancient spiritualities, especially the divine feminine, is a tool of those who want to take control and want to take power, which is essentially, what the patriarchal religions have done. As witches, as Wiccans, as modern pagans, we are here with this very unique opportunity to bring back the old religions, to remind people, hey, there's more below the surface than maybe you think. And to introduce these challenging ideas that will be challenging to some, but nevertheless are powerful ways that we can shift the narrative of this world. So getting off my tangent and back to what we're talking about here. So the symbols, so I did want to mention too that if you are celebrating Ostara and you want to celebrate with deities, any deities are good to celebrate the season, this turning of the wheel with. If you have like a personal deity, you can always use that one. Ostara, Eostre, Ostre, however you want to pronounce her name. She's a very great goddess to use at this time. Also, other maiden goddesses and goddesses that are tied to springtime are also very connected to this time of the wheel. Other symbol, oh, and what I wanted to mention is that if you want to work with also the divine masculine during a ritual and you're working with Ostara, the god most often, so sometimes you won't see any god associated with her at all, but as a maiden fertility goddess, she is often associated with the green man, which is kind of the fertile earth, right? That comes together to produce life on our planet. So symbols connected to Ostara and to the Sabbat are eggs, which makes sense, right, with what the story we just heard, rabbits and hares, flowers, seeds, as well as dawn and kind of that returning of light. Also, I did want to mention, this was kind of, got ahead of myself with the story of like kind of the connection between Ostara and Easter, but I did want to mention, for those who don't know this, the way that Easter's date is set each year in the calendar is through finding the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. So from a pagan point of view, a very pagan way to set a holiday, right? So just offering that for your consideration. So let's move into this kind of some of the spiritual themes of Ostara. So if you're looking for a way to celebrate, we also will get into some practices as well. But kind of think about these themes. And as I go through, there's 4 different themes, which also have many other kind of sub-themes underneath them. Think about which of these themes are you feeling most called to right now. So remember, we don't have to do everything. We don't have to be focusing on everything that a Sabbat encompasses, but rather kind of think about what kind of energy do I need most right now and see if it resonates with any of these themes. And share with us in the chat too, how are you celebrating Ostara? So I'm just going to go into the chat for just a moment. And so some people are already talking about how they're celebrating. So Taliesin said celebrating with the Coven family. Can't wait. Yes, we as a Coven are celebrating our Ostara on Sunday with our online Coven and Saturday with our in-person one. Jenny said she is meeting her Coven family Friday night for Ostara. Mary me to Lisa and Debbie, who are also here. Jen says she is changing her altar for more spring colors, and we're going to talk about altars as well for anybody who doesn't know kind of what to do for an Ostara altar. Jen says she's going to plant some seeds with intentions, work on some balance, specific meditation, and then having the ritual with the Coven. And Taliesin said he loves the story of Ostara and the hare. I do too. And I see others loving the story as well. Jenny said, I like to put my Rose of Jericho, aka Resurrection Rose, in the water starting on the equinox. And she said, I sometimes use the water in spell work, anything that has to do with that intention. That is a really cool idea too, because not only do you have this symbolic thing you're doing at the time, but then you're also producing the water that you can use later if you want to carry on that intention as well. And then Debbie said she's going to put a few of her seed packs out. Rebecca said she thinks she's going to plant her tobacco seeds. Yeah, great time for planting. And, planting, obviously, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but obviously there's the physical act of planting, but we can also layer on top of that a spiritual and a magical significance to the planting as well. Okay, so spiritual themes. So as we go through these spiritual themes, kind of think about, of these 4, which is the one that's most resonant for you. Share it with us in the chat. So the first one is balance. Because of its location at the equinox, it makes a lot of sense. Day and night are roughly equal. So I don't know exactly sunset and sunrise in your location, but here in Los Angeles, it's happening right around 7 a.m., both sunrise and sunset. So we have equal day and equal night. This invites us, that watching the world around us invites us to bring that energy into our own lives and really reflect on balance, right? What's in balance and what's not in balance. And there's a lot of different ways that we can approach balance. It can be rest versus action. Are you balanced? Are you resting enough? Are you moving enough, right? It can be about receiving versus giving, or receiving versus creating. How receptive is our energy versus, how projective is it? It can be about planning versus doing. There's a time to plan and there's a time to move forward, and we don't want to get stuck in either one of those spaces. Balance also can invite us to reflect on our inner work versus our outer work or outer movement, right? We don't want to get stuck in one or those other of those places. So really think about balance, that theme. This time of the wheel is a unique opportunity where you are invited to consider how balanced or imbalanced you are. Now, that doesn't mean you can't work with the theme of balance at other times of the wheel. But what I think is so important about the two equinoxes, spring and fall, as well as the third and the first quarter of every lunar cycle, these are just times that are aligned to the theme, and they make it easier for us to engage with that theme and reflect on it. Also, if you're somebody who's really wrapped up in life and it's hard to remember things, these give you calendar points when you can stop, pause, and say, okay, let's reflect on what is in balance. So let us know in the chat. Does balance feel like a theme that you're being called to right now at this Ostara, at the start of this Ostara season? Now, the second theme is renewal, right? So this is about rebirth. This is a season of reawakening. If you're not quite seeing that energy physically out in your, your environment yet, it is coming soon. Not everything blooms all at once. That's also important for us to remember. But it is clearly returning, right? By the time we get to Beltane, we're going to see a lot more of it. But right now, in most places, we may be starting to see those first buds, right? Or even more. Now, renewal doesn't have to be this dramatic thing. And that, to me, is a patriarchal view, right? Of it. It has to be this big, huge, dramatic event. Renewal can be quiet, and it can be internal, and it can be just a subtle shifting. Like, I'm feeling it in my own life. All of a sudden, I'm feeling a different energy, right? Without really much explanation, I just feel my energy shift. Renewal can also mean we are, beginning to re-engage with and return to what actually matters to us. So maybe things that we put on the back burner as we came through the winter, maybe our energy pulled us and drew us more inward, and now we're returning, we're re-emerging to what matters. So kind of think about that renewal. Does that theme resonate for you in your life right now? And if so, what is it that you are being called to renew? Maybe it's not even anything you can put your finger on. It's just a sense of renewal, or maybe it is something specific. So share with us in the chat if that is resonating with you. Now, the third theme is fertility and growth. And it's important for us to remember that this is not just physical fertility. While it is true that many of our ancient ancestors who practiced pagan religions, many were fertility cults, and physical fertility was especially important to them. Whether that meant physical fertility of the land and seeds and planting, or livestock, or even the people in the tribe or in the community. Without, lacking the modern science that we have, people looked to the seasons and the way they changed, and they felt that that was reflected inside of what would occur to them, right? They also believed that they helped to turn the wheel. Now, we know as modern witches that the wheel will turn with us or without us, right? But I certainly do feel that we help to turn it by bringing back these old practices, by sharing them with others. And, and remembering it's not just fertility, even physical fertility, even if that is where it originated, you can ask yourselves many different questions about fertility. So it can be about creative fertility. This is a great time. You may have come through winter and felt kind of stagnant. That's natural because, wintertime asks us to turn inward, reflect, release things that don't serve us before moving on, right? But now, with the stirring of spring, your creativity may be stirring as well. It may be about spiritual fertility, maybe growing your spiritual practice, maybe finally taking the plunge and finding a mentor or a teacher or joining a group. Things that progress your spiritual path forward. It can be about emotional readiness. So sometimes emotionally we're not ready for change in the winter, but with the stirrings of spring, all of a sudden we begin to feel, okay, yeah, I can handle that change emotionally now. It can be about new ideas, being open to new ideas. It can be about projects or intentions that you want to take root. And so, like we said, to me, Beltane obviously is also a fertility holiday. And I would say even into, Litha, which is kind of the culmination of the sun's energy. This is the plantings of the seeds that we do as we progress through, this growing half of the wheel. So share in the chat with us if fertility feels like a theme that is resonant with you right now, and if so, what kind of fertility is it? If it's maybe it's just fertility in general, or maybe the specific kind. And then there's theme 4. So this is really about emergence and hope. So sometimes the winter gets dark and dreary, and it can bring our emotions down, especially for those of us who suffer from kind of seasonal affective disorder, or just feeling down because there isn't much light. One of the themes of Ostara is that hope coming back, the emergence of new life and hope, right? So Ostara can be about stepping out of our dormancy. So just like the seeds that are underneath the surface of the earth that go dormant in the winter, we can too. Things have been resting, they've been hidden for a purpose, for a reason, so that we can grow, we can reflect, we can learn what works and what doesn't work. We need those times. We can't constantly be growing, right? Or we'll burn out. So we need those times to pause and slow down and reflect, but then we also need to kind of move out of that when it's time. And that's really what Ostara is about. Incubating, during that winter time, and then bringing out what was incubating out into the light now and becoming ready for movement. So which of Ostara's themes do you see playing out in your own life? Do you think that right now is about a time of balancing for you? Is it about renewal? Is it about fertility? Is it about growth? Is it about hope and emergence? So let us know in the chat. And then we're going to move into some practical ways that we can celebrate Ostara. So Debbie said, I think I'm feeling my real self coming back to life after I wasn't able to be anything for myself since becoming a partial caregiver to my husband. She said, I didn't get to put in a garden last year. And sometimes there are things that, supersede the plans that we might have for like our own energy. And those take the forefront of our, our energy and what our movement forward. And we might have to put other things on the back burner. But maybe this is the year to plant a little bit. Maybe it doesn't have to be your full garden like usual, maybe just a bit. Or if that even seems like too much, always you could pot a few, put some seeds in some pots, right, as well. But it's great to hear, that you're feeling your real self coming back to life. Taliesin said that I am feeling much more balanced and I want to celebrate that this Ostara. She said this is something I feel is very important in my life and also want to reflect on what seeds I want to plant in my life. Yeah, absolutely. And Lisa said she's setting up her altar and she's going to be planting, and she'll be planting like crazy as well. Rebecca says balance and renewal and rebirth are what are calling to her. Debbie says maybe all of us that are planting, we can share the photos in the group. Absolutely. We encourage you in our Body, Mind, Witchcraft group, if you're a part of that on Facebook, share the photos of what you're planting with us. It would be awesome. And if you're not part of the Body Mind Witchcraft Facebook group, join us. We'd love to have you. Tommy says he needs to meditate on balance. Yeah, it's a big one. That's the kind of one of the themes that I am working on this season as well. Jenny says, for me, it's about growth and fertility. So many that so much that had to be let go of. Says now I'm ready to bring in something new. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so it sounds like people are really resonating kind of with this energy. And if you're not quite feeling it yet, don't worry, it is coming. Okay, so how can we observe Ostara? So we want to remember first that Ostara energy is seasonal. So as I start to go through this list of things, don't feel overwhelmed like you have to do all of this on Friday or this weekend. Ostara energy starts as we move through the spring equinox, which is Friday, as we mentioned, and then it will persist and continue on until we get almost to the beginning of Beltane, where it will start to shift. Kind of in that last week of April, we'll start to really begin to feel the Beltane energy coming in and the Ostara energy kind of transitioning out of that Ostara energy. So what that means is you have plenty of time to do these practices. Don't have to cram them all in at once. Eggs, nests. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page here. So the first thing is to decorate your space and or your altar. So if you have never set up an Ostara altar, here's some ideas of things you could put on or kind of adapt your current altar to an Ostara theme. So fresh flowers of any kind, whether you pick them outside or you buy them, pastel or spring colors, if those colors resonate with you, eggs, nests, rabbits and hares, and greenery, which makes sense based on the story of Ostara we talked about earlier. You can also just simply refresh your own altar that you already have for spring by adding in any of these symbols. Or symbols for balance or emerging life. So whatever feels like a symbol of balance or emerging life can be something that you can place on your Ostara altar. Another thing that we can do in order to celebrate Ostara is work with the energy of planting and growing. So we've already been talking a bit about seeds. We can plant seeds physically. So this is a great activity to do at Ostara. We can start a garden if that is available to you, or you can grow seeds in pots if that is available to you. You can also, if these things aren't available to you, you can also visualize yourself doing this as well. We can use seed magic or symbolic planting. And that's something that I really love. It's something that our in-person coven has often done at Ostara, is we would have some kind of seeds. We would bless them and charge them with our intentions, and then we would plant them as we kind of thought about our intentions. And then as we tend to these plants, we're growing our intentions. You can also, in addition or separately from this, you can also write your intentions down. Like, what do you want to grow right now? And you can put that piece of paper underneath the potted plant, or you could bury that in the soil where you're burying or where you're growing your seeds in your garden or on your land. You can reflect on what you want to cultivate this spring while you are doing all of this. So this is one of my favorite ways to really celebrate Ostara is really working with seeds. So a couple of thoughts about seeds too is that you can plant any seeds that you feel called to. You can also look at the magical correspondences of different plants. I definitely recommend, if you are somebody who doesn't know a lot about plants and would like to, especially the magical side of them, Scott Cunningham's book, Magical Herbalism, is a really good resource. And there's an appendix where you can look up different intentions, and then it will tell you different plants that are connected to it. So let's say you want to grow love in your life. You can go into that book or into a similar book with correspondences, look for different plants that are connected to love, and then pick those seeds when you are choosing the seeds that you want to plant. So kind of think about, for in your own life, what in your life is ready to be planted, nourished, and strengthened? What is your intention for Ostara? Now, other things that we can also do is we can do rituals or spell work that is aligned with the energy of the season. So, right, balancing, right? So we can create rituals to help us bring in balance. We can create balance wheels. If you've never done one of these before, we have done them in our Shadow Seekers membership before. We've done them in our coven before. It's essentially you draw a kind of circle, a pie, cut it into a bunch of pie pieces and label each of those pieces an area of your life. And then really reflect on, like, when it comes to your energy, where's your energy going? And you will be able to quickly see what's in balance and what's out of balance. And if you're like a lot of people, you'll probably see a lot of your energy is kind of going into work and taking care of others and life, and maybe less of your energy is going into self-care, or receiving things yourself. And so this will help you sort of open your eyes to where the imbalances are, and then those can be the intentions of what you're growing, what you want to draw in during this time. I will share a template for a balance wheel in our Body Mind Witchcraft Facebook group. I'll try to also link it in the comments of the YouTube video as well for anybody who's interested in seeing it, and then you can use that to create your own if you would like. You can balance your chakras. Great time to balance your energy at this time. You can use balancing breath. Two really good breaths are Nadi Shodhana, which is the alternate nostril breathing. And this is where you close off one nostril, you breathe in through one side, and then close that side off. You can do it with just one hand. Thumb on the right nostril. Usually put like my ring finger on the left nostril, and then you just go back and forth, breathing in and out through the two different sides. And this balances your feminine and your masculine energy channels within you, your Ida and your Pingala. There's also the healing square breath, which is very balancing. This is where you breathe in for a count, usually of 4, hold it for a count of 4 at the top of the breath, exhale for a count of 4, and then hold it for a count of 4 at the bottom of the breath, and then you just repeat that over and over. And it's a very grounding and centering and equalizing breath. Other things you can do are renewal rituals. If there's something you want to renew within you, have that be the intention of your ritual or your practice. Fertility and creativity work, obviously very aligned to the season right now. Blessing your home with new energy, opening the windows and the doors and letting new energy in. An egg hunt, a pagan egg hunt, is super fun. And you just get the plastic Easter eggs that you can get in any store, but instead of putting candy in them, put little pagan trinkets and things in it. So we've done this before in our coven, our in-person coven, where we had everybody bring like a dozen of these, and they each put different things in them. So sometimes people would put little like jewelry or charms in them, or little bags of herbs, or like a sigil, or I'm trying to think of some of the other things, but any, or pagan symbols, like anything you can think of, you can put them in these eggs, and then you hide them in your yard and have a pagan egg hunt. So fun to do with kids, but totally, we've done it with just adults, and it's super fun as well. So something to consider. Also, if you want to do some spell work, spells for growth, whatever it is you're growing in your life, momentum, hope, fresh starts. If any of these resonate with you, these would really be good intentions for spell work right now. And also sunrise practice can be a nice at this time of year, getting up and doing some kind of a meditation at sunrise. Now, don't feel like you have to do everything. And like, I am not a morning person. That is not top of my list to do a sunrise meditation. So we don't want to beat ourselves up about like, oh, I'm not a good witch because I'm not getting up at sunrise. Find different practices that resonate with you more. So share in the chat if any of these kind of ideas connect with you. Another thing to do at the spring equinox is to connect to the natural world. The natural world is emerging and becoming just like we are. And the more time that we spend in it, the more time we reflect on it, the closer we get to the natural world. Go on a spring walk. Notice what is budding and returning. Go very intentionally. Don't listen to podcasts and music when you're doing this. Don't be talking to other people. Don't be distracted by your phone. Go and observe. Go to what I have liked to do I haven't done this in a while, and I was just thinking as I was writing this episode, I was like, I should go do this again. But I would go to this one spot that was kind of off of a hiking trail that I really like to go to. And I would go sit at this like kind of creek, right on the edge of this creek. And I would go at all these different times of the year, and it's really, and I wouldn't go every single day. So I would go like, I would go once, and then maybe I'd go a month later, and then a month later, and you really get to observe the way that nature changes. So sometimes we're moving too quickly and we're not paying attention, but if we really like intentionally take that time to notice what's emerging right now, it will help us better connect to what's emerging inside of us as well. Observe birds and flowers, observe the changing light, how it slants differently at this time of year. Notice weather patterns and how they change. Notice insects and how they change. You can also do a simple offering to the land, which can be anything you want to offer, but sometimes that when you don't know what to offer, water is always good, milk, honey, flowers, coins, things like that. Spend some time in direct relationship with the season, and you're going to develop a deeper appreciation for the season and a deeper appreciation for yourself. So do the practices, don't just read about them. And then I wanted to also mention, for those of you who like journaling, there's some nice journaling prompts you can do at this time. So you can actually use these many different ways. If you don't like journaling, writing it down, you don't have to. You can. That's a great way to do it. But I sometimes like to just go hiking and just contemplate these questions. Or some of you I know like to use the questions to pull cards and see what comes out that way. So here's a few nice prompts for you at Ostara. Where am I being invited to grow? So kind of really thinking about what's growing in my life. Where am I being invited to grow? What is coming back to life in me? Kind of looking at it in a different way, right? What is coming back to life in me? What needs more balance right now? So if we want to instead kind of reflect on the balancing side, what in me needs more balance right now? And what do I want to nurture over the next couple of months? What do I want to nurture over the next couple of months? And I'll go ahead and type those into the chat a little bit later when the episode is over, if you want to just copy and paste them and then use them throughout the Ostara season. When it comes to celebrating, remember, you do not have to do everything. Please hear me when I say that, especially for those of you who are overdoers. You don't have to do all of it. It doesn't mean that's the truest way to be a witch. It's just find the things that resonate. Your practices can be simple and personal, and often those are the most meaningful ones. You do not need a big elaborate ritual unless you want one. I usually don't do big elaborate rituals unless I'm leading a bunch of people. So yes, the one I'm doing on Saturday here in Burbank is going to be very big and elaborate, right? And probably the one that, the one we do online will be more elaborate than what I probably do in my own practice. So you can keep it simple if that's what you're called to. You don't need the perfect correspondences. Sometimes that gets people stuck and they don't even want to begin or know how to begin because they're so frozen in like, am I going to do it right? Just come from your heart. Think about what needs balance in your life. Think about what you want to grow right now, and let that energy kind of direct you to the practices that seem most aligned right now. You do not have to celebrate the exact same way as everybody else. You are your own witch who carves out your own path, and you don't have to compare yourself to anyone else. A meaningful observance for you could be lighting a candle, maybe at sunrise, but you don't have to get up at sunrise and do it if that's not aligned with your energy. Maybe you just place some flowers on your altar. Maybe you do a short meditation on balance, or you spend some time balancing your chakras. Maybe you plant one seed. You don't have to plant a whole garden unless that's what you want to do. Maybe you journal about what is beginning again in your life. So it can absolutely be simple. You can stack the practices if you have time and the energy for bigger practices. But remember, it can always be one simple thing that you can do like with all of your heart. To me, is much better than like freaking out and trying to do all these things at once, right? The point is to enter into a relationship with the seasonal energy, not to perform everything perfectly. So I hope I hope that resonates with you. So I do want to kind of close with just I wanted to mention something about about Universal Kabbalah and the way that the wheel is divided up in Universal Kabbalah, which they don't call it. I don't think they necessarily call it the wheel, but the solar year is divided into 7 different pieces that are all aligned to a different planet. And so when we look through the solar year, what we notice is that each of these 7 periods is divided into 52 days. And so you can kind of figure out where they are by starting at spring equinox is day 1. 52 days carries you through what's called the sun period. And then it moves into the moon period 52 days later. But something that is really interesting is that right before you move into the sun period, which is approximately like around Imbolc to the spring equinox, you are in what's called the Saturn period. And if you know much about planetary energy, you know that Saturn is a very different energy than the sun. It's very restrictive. It likes structure. It's a good for really organizing ourselves, but it's also really good for reflecting on lessons, spiritual studies, things like that. It's really good for going inward. So it makes sense that from Imbolc to Ostara, that's kind of the energy we're in. But when we move into the sun period, it's about light and growth and rebirth. And so it's not, so I guess where I'm going with this is like we see even in this different system, the energy shifting from the internal energy to the external energy, just like we see in the Wheel of the Year. So why I bring this up is to kind of like help those of you who have struggled during the winter time of really feeling like sluggish or like you're not getting much done. That's okay. The energy was calling you inward. Now, as you move outward again into the sun, you can reflect on what you've learned during that period of incubation. Also, I want to point out that this is astrologically, this is the solar new year. So the spring equinox is the beginning of the wheel. It's the start of Aries season. It really is the witch's new year. I know that we will call Samhain the witch's new year. We absolutely can make different cases for when the new year begins. But from an astrological perspective, the new year begins right now. So if you were at the new year, January 1st, and you didn't feel like making New Year's resolutions or changing much of anything, that's okay, because actually that's the kind of energy that we were in at that time. It wasn't really an energy of growth and movement, but now we are. And so this is a great time to set some resolutions, set some intentions for yourself. What do you want to see grow as we move further into the growing half of the wheel? So to recap here, so remember, Ostara reminds us that growth begins to show itself slowly. It's not all at once, right? Just like springtime. Balance is not static. You don't balance yourself once. It is a lifelong process, and it's something that you keep returning to. That's why this time of the year is so awesome, because it invites us, hey, come back. Reflect on balance. Do it again. See how you're balanced this year versus last year. Don't just do it once and expect it to stick. It's something we keep returning to over and over again. Spring does not arrive all at once, neither do we. So, really ask yourself at this time, what is ready to emerge for you? What do you want to nurture in your life right now? What kind of growth are you ready to tend? And let that energy move you forward as you step forward into Ostara season. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope it gives you some food for thought about how you will celebrate Ostara this year. Of course, share in the chat. Let us know what you're planning to do, what you're resonating with in the episode. So if there are any questions, we're going to open it up for the Q&A now. I didn't have any questions that I saw were left for me this week. But if you have any questions, and whether you're live or watching back later, put them in the chat. They can be questions about anything. It doesn't have to be related to Ostara. And while I'm kind of waiting to see if there are any questions, I'm just going to share with you a bit about what is coming up. So on 3/21, that's this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, if you are local to the Los Angeles area, our Coven of Midnight's Flame, will be presenting our ritual Ostara, planting the seeds of change at the Crooked Path Apothecary Occult Shop in Burbank. And we would love to have you celebrate with us if you are local. You can find the Crooked Paths website. I'll also put a link to it in the chat in just a little bit. But we would love to see those of you who are local come out and join us. We have some California native seeds that Beth and I got at a nature conservancy, and we are going to bless and charge those seeds with the intentions of what we want, the changes that we want to see in the world. The world is in a dark place. Not hard to see that, right? And so this is a time when we can bring light and hope and emergence to what is going on in the world as well, and kind of set the intentions for what we want to see in our communities, in the country, in the world. So that is what we are going to be doing for our Ostara ritual in person. It's also what we will be doing. We're adapting it to our online groups as well. So unfortunately this year we are not doing our online ritual public. Sometimes we sell tickets to it. This year we're keeping it closed just for our Shadow Seekers membership and for our coven. But if you have been on the fence about joining our Shadow Seekers membership and you think you would like to, reach out to me. We would love to have you join us, and then you can join us for this ritual as well. Then on 3/24, so that would be next week, on next Tuesday, I believe we're going to do the episode on the moon signs. So last week we did an episode on the phase of the moon when you were born. Now we're going to look at the sign that the moon was in when you were born and what that says about you. And then on 3/31, I think we're going to come back and we're going to continue our discussion of the elements. We're going to be talking about the water element, in particular correspondences and practices. And then the following week on 4/7, we will look at the shadow side of the water element. How do we work through difficult emotions? So let me check on the chat here, see if there's any questions left for me here. Let me see. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So I see different people putting the intentions that they are feeling resonating with them. If I miss any, there's a lot here. If I miss anything, I will promise that I will come back when we're not live, and I'll go ahead through all of these. Debbie said she's doing a body treatment wrap on Thursday night. Great. Right the day before the Ostara. That's a great self-care practice to do. Lisa asked, what about bulbs? Absolutely, yes. In fact, our coven actually did bulbs one year. I love hyacinths. They're my favorite flower. And we had hyacinths and different bulb flowers that we charged with intentions and then grew those. So absolutely can do bulbs as well. Perfect for this time of the year. Okay, so I don't see any questions, but sometimes it's hard for me to tell in the chat. So if I missed anything, promise I'll go back. But I'm going to say goodbye for tonight. Make sure to leave a heart or a thumbs up somewhere in the episode. That will help us get this out to more people. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you are not already a subscriber. This channel is Body, Mind, Witchcraft. And you won't miss any of these episodes. Like if you miss the lives, for example, you will get the replays sent to you, as well as other like tips and witchcraft and shadow work and energy work tips and strategies and spells and different things that I send out every week. So if you would like to, that is if you would like to sign up for our mailing list. So let me just put that in the chat here. And if you're watching back on YouTube, you will find this link in the description of the video. So if you're already a subscriber to the mailing list, awesome. But if not, get on the mailing list. And like I said, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We are working to try to get 4,000 video view hours for the year, and that will help us get monetized. So every video that you watch helps us out. And as always, it's wonderful to spend Tuesday night with you. So much love to all of you who are here live and those watching back in replay. Happy Ostara and the beginning of Ostara season. Until next time, blessed be.